the love of the game.
When you're representing your school and those kids are out there, I don't think there's anything better than high school athletics.
And a passion to inspire.
That's what it's all about for us. We want to see them succeed.
But coaches in today's environment are facing challenges like never before.
I had better make it to state or my job would be in jeopardy.
Pressure to win.
You better win. And you better win now.
Pressure from parents.
Parents don't understand that when they step in, they're deteriorating a relationship that you're trying to build with your athlete.
From the rising cost of AAU.
Totally dumping money.
To the threat of social media.
The parents think that they can put things out there in social media and it's okay.
These 8 area coaches share their stories right now on Ozark Sports Zone's special series, The Climate of Coaching.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Ozark Sports Zone, The Climate of Coaching. Definitely athletes and coaches have had to adapt over the past 20 years. As society changes, so does their craft. And we are very grateful to have an expert panel with us tonight to kind of discuss the climate of coaching, and we'll introduce everybody one at a time. First off, we have Becky Justice, who is the former volleyball coach there at Ozark. Next to her is Justin Snyder, the baseball coach at Clever. Moving on down the road, Jennifer Perryman, Nixa girls basketball coach, previously the girls golf coach as well, and Jim Moore, the Aurora girls basketball coach. Behind Jim, Bill Brown, the former Parkview boys basketball coach, and next to him, Lorenzo Williams, the Central football and track coach in his first year, Tammy Miller, Rogersville volleyball, and rounding out our staff, Greg Garton, the athletic director from Republic High School. First off, I just want to say thank you all for joining us here tonight and trying to just talk a little bit about how your craft has changed over the years. And we're going to start tonight with parenting and exactly the role of the parents and how that impacts exactly how you perform your job. Here's SPS Athletic Director Mark Fisher with his take.
First of all, we want parent involvement, and I think if you talk to our coaches, they welcome the parents being part of their kids' lives and experiences, throughout sports. But I think at times, when you're dealing with sports, you're dealing with competition and the heat of the moment. And sometimes I think that the parents, maybe have a narrow focus, a tunnel vision on what's best for their child, and without understanding that coach is responsible for all the kids on the team. And our coaches always want what's best for the kids, but sometimes that team element comes first.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. And we do have another athletic director here with us tonight, and that's Greg from Republic. I guess your thoughts on parents. Does this come to your door a lot? Do the parents come to you with concerns about coaching?
At a school our size, we have several sports and obviously several hundred athletes. You're going to have some issues that you have to deal with. I think what we've tried to do at Republic is we now have mandatory parent meetings and parent education night for fall and winter and spring. And it's for each head coach, they must meet with their parents and kind of lay down their expectations and discuss the proper ways and protocol to meet and discuss if they have issues.
I guess that's the big problem, or the big question is that open door policy. Do you open up your practices and let the parents come in to take a look at what you're doing, or do you try and shut them off and just say, I'm the coach and this is how my program works?
Parents need to let the kids do the talking and not the parents, because we're trying to teach them a lot of things, and growing up and being able to talk to an adult is really a big thing that we want them to learn to do.
Has that changed maybe over the years, the parents listening or letting the child decide?
It's always the talk is always about playing time, or if the kid's going to be eligible to play or whatever it is. So I always have the parents come in. They can sit in at any practice. Usually if your kid's not playing, it's because something they're doing in practice with me. So I tell the parents, hey, if your kid's practicing well, he's going to have a chance to play. If he's not, then I want you to come see what he's doing, and then we can have a conversation after that.
And it's not just one day. I mean, come for a couple practices, right. See what the student athlete is doing, and maybe that's the result of playing time or whatnot.
If they want to talk at home with their parents about it, that's fine. Don't do it the night of a game. Let's schedule a meeting. Give ourselves time to settle down, because everybody can get fired up at times.
With those hours that you're putting in, those student athletes are with you a lot of time out of the day. They're with you more than their homeroom teachers, counselors, any other teachers, so they can come to you. And as a coach, you're doing more than just coaching them on and off the field. You're doing a lot of life skills with them as well, too.
We do.
Parents don't understand that when they step in, they're deteriorating a relationship that you're trying to build with your athlete. And for any coach to be successful, you have to have a relationship with your athlete first. And if it's a triangle instead of a one-on-one relationship, you're not going to get much done with that young man or that young lady, and it gets very difficult as a coach. And that word communication's used a lot. As coaches, we always communicate with our athletes. It's just how do your athletes communicate with their parents?
Has that changed since your time of taking over as coach, maybe, when you were coming in?
That's probably my biggest issue. Yeah. I didn't change with the times, not interested in changing with the times. I think as coaches, at one time, coach was a big thing. All people respected that word coach, just like they respected lawyer and nurse, because you were dealing with a lot of individuals and had a big impact on people. And I think the number one thing, more so than any winning, is trying to teach our kids discipline and understanding how to be successful, and the issues and problems that you have in practice or have in games are building blocks for the future, because we all know that most of our kids are not going to be college athletes, NBA athletes, or anything like that.
And then Bill and Jim, you both are able to coach your own children. What is that like, the positives of that and maybe the negatives? Because I'm sure there's outside parents who are saying that your child maybe is getting special treatment.
There's times whenever parents look at her and say, well, you're getting your playing time because of who your dad is. And that's, that's tough on both of us. If there is any kind of question on who the right player to play is, I've told her, I said, you have to understand the position I'm in. And it can't be a question. You have to be the best person for that spot, or else this other kid's probably going to get that opportunity.
All right, touchy subject right here, real quick. Parents are also members of the school board. There's stories out there that school board members and parents can cost coaches jobs. Is that true? Absolutely.
We have places around this area that are strong and protect their coaches, and then again we have some that are not going to be as strong and protect those coaches, and that changes coaching style as much as anything. And if you can be your own coach, right, that's one thing. But sometimes you're not able to be the coach you want to be, just due to the support that you may be receiving. Do any of you think that you have to win to keep your job? I mean, let's be serious.
I'll be honest. In 2009, I had a little birdie come to my house and tell me that I had better make it that I had better make it to state, or my job would be in jeopardy. And we won state that year. And thank the good Lord,
I'd like to see for all the young coaches is taking a look at parents yelling at coaches during games and yelling out their opinion of who should be playing and who shouldn't be playing. It's a shame, because we put in a lot of hours and we look after those kids. We're looking for their best interest, trying to put them in the best position for them to be successful. But we have no ability to defend ourselves, but we have to take that abuse.
Our kids and our wives or husbands don't need to not want to come to a game, because a lot of times that's when our kids get to see us. Yeah. Because parents on the outside want to coach from the stands.
I know for me, I'm my own worst critic. The pressure we put on ourselves, and how much we criticize ourselves, I don't think parents understand how seriously we take it as well, and that's why we're so invested, and that's why we do what we do.
I think this perception, there's no doubt that winning has filtered down, whether it's kind of the professional attitude to the college attitude, it has filtered down to high school. That, you better win. And you better win now, and if you don't win in a couple years, we should fire you. There's no doubt that is out there in many communities, and I think I tell my coaches winning is important, and I tell parents we want to win every game. At the same time, there's much more than just winning, but we do want to win.
Next, on the climate of coaching.
Some of these kids are racking up $3,000 or $5,000 for these programs and putting their parents in a huge financial fight.
The increasing cost of off-season sports and how specialization is changing the game.
I've never talked to a college coach in any sport that wanted their recruits to be a one-sport athlete. Right. They want athletes.
And welcome back. Student athletes are supposed to be students first, athletes second. But now more and more with club sports, AAU sports coming around, the children are hearing different takes of what they should do on the floor, in the field. And they're hoping to get that big college scholarship from someone who they are paying. Kelly Harper, the head coach of the MSU Lady Bears, has her take on club sports.
I think there are a lot of very positives about the summer basketball circuit. I think some of those, as a recruiter, we can go and watch a massive number of student athletes at one tournament, which we just can't do due to some regulations during the academic school year. I think some of the negatives, they just play so many games, and they're tired at the end of the season, and we are not watching really good basketball by the end of the summer.
So some good takeaways and some negative takeaways from a college coach. But what about our high school panel?
Personally, since I recruited for 8 years and dealt with coaches across the country, I'd always rather deal with a high school coach because they're going to give you the honest truth. Most of the time when you're dealing with AAU basketball or club basketball, you're going to get kind of a sugar-coated answer to some of those questions because a lot of those kids are paying to play. They're also, when you evaluate them, there's 8 all-stars on a team. Right. It makes coaching pretty easy when you can just sub it and you don't have to get really mad at anybody. My biggest issue with it is they play 3, 4, sometimes 5 games a day. If they lose a couple, that's okay. If they win a couple, that's okay, I didn't play much defense, that's okay. But then when we get back, we have to kind of recoach attitude and a demeanor that you need to be successful.
How much of a disruption can it be for your programs when you have another coach telling them you need to do this, you need to do that, specialization, you're more of a power forward, do this? Does that come back and does that present a big problem? And how do you address maybe that if it is a problem?
The thing that I have problems with this club is we finish, in volleyball, we finish at the end of October, the 1st of November, and then they immediately go into club. Right. And as a parent, too, when can kids be kids? Right. Then I also see that when some of my kids are being recruited, their first question is, what other sports do they play? Right. How academically are they in class? How do they interact with other kids?
Like Bill said, those coaches are getting paid. I'm a parent. I'm paying this coach whatever for $400, $500 a month for my kid to play on this AAU team. Well, why is my kid playing more during high school? Well, because they're really not that good, but you would never know that because this AAU coach is telling you your kid is like the next shining star, but they need to put more work in. They need to do more with me. Here's a couple more things I can provide for you if you pay me this much more money. So the parents is steadily dumping money, and they come back to the high school coach and they're like, hey man, you didn't learn anything over the summer. You didn't get any better. Or in my take, you haven't lifted weights one time all summer. How you expect? Well, my AAU coach told me don't lift weights because it messed my shot up. That kind of thing. So they kind of take it to a different level where I'm this kid's coach. I can get this kid to college. You can't do that. And they don't talk to kids about anything important. ACTs is like you can't go anywhere if your GPA is not good and your ACT is not taken. Right. And I got parents that'll tell me, well, my AAU coach hadn't told me anything about ACT. Well, they're not telling you the right things if they don't tell you about ACT. Right. So that's why I'm like, hey, do something in AAU that you don't do regularly. Like go in track, go in wrestling, go do something else. That way you can become a better athlete, you can get more competitive, and you can work on some different skills, you can see some different things, and then you come back, now you're hungry to get back in football, you're hungry to get back in basketball, that kind of thing.
If you're not that upper echelon of athlete, right, I do believe it helps you if you're the upper echelon. If you're in the middle, it might help you sometimes, but more often than not, we are able to help them more than their coaches are.
I think you'd ask coaches that the players are made in the off season. And that's when AAU is done. But in order to become a better player, you better be working on fundamentals, and you better be working on the things that you need to work on. And sometimes I don't think that that's happening with AAU. It's all about the win. They want to win.
And Greg, I want to get to you because it's not all about just your baseball, basketball, football. Your daughter is dance, correct? Yes. Correct. How often is she out doing dance now, and is that a beneficial thing? Yeah, it's actually kind of similar. She did competitive dance, and actually in our prom squad at Republic's very good, and they practice a lot, and it got to where she couldn't really do both. Mm-hmm. But in all the sports, I see the positives in the club. I see them getting to play, in many cases, high level, get out, see the world, see how many great players there are in the world. I think a mistake some kids make is they do specialize in one sport. That's my favorite sport. I hope to get a scholarship.
And I've never talked to a college coach in any sport that wanted their recruits to be a one-sport athlete. Right. They want athletes.
We recently went over to the junior high. We met with every 8th grade athlete, girl, and we said, if you play both now, we expect you to play both in high school. Right. You may get to a point where one sport you're just not going to excel in the other one, and you may make a decision by the time you're a junior or senior, but we want to see you playing both. And I think her and I going over together, having that united front, really sent a positive message, and we've got a lot of positive feedback, and hopefully we'll see an increase in our numbers.
Next, on the climate of coaching.
They got to be able to trust you. They got to know that you understand them, and then they'll run through a brick wall for you, I feel like.
Building our future. Why these coaches dedicate their lives to leading the next generation.
We're not establishing a relationship for 4 years. We're establishing a relationship for life.
And welcome back to the Ozone Climate of Coaching. Taxes and change, that's all we're assured of in this life, and coaches have to change. Here is psychologist Dr. Deborah Cox.
So in the old school, we used intimidation and domination and control to try to get compliance. And in the new school, we now use relationship and connection, and we focus on the process more than the outcome, more than winning. So because of the feminization of psychology, we now have so much more information about how the brain develops and how to help people through nurturing and what happens to people when they're not nurtured.
A feminization of psychology. That is what we're leading into now with our coaches back. And the first two segments were all about outside factors, the parents as well as the club sports. But now this one is all about you and how maybe lives have changed for you. Because coming up, you all had coaches from a previous generation, and you're not able to coach exactly the same way that you were coached, correct?
I think what you said about outside things is this is a problem with, it's not really a problem, but it's like you say, it got to change. So as a coach, especially now, and I'm a young coach, so I've been through the tough coaches and then been through the coaches who are the relationship builders, those type guys. I think you got to realize what the kids are going through, understand what their daily life is like before you can be able to have a chance to coach the kid. They got to be able to trust you. They got to know that you understand them, and then they'll run through a brick wall for you, I feel like. As a coach, we talk about being like, you got to be like Dr. Phil, you got to be Oprah, you got to be dad, you got to be coach, you got to be teacher, you got to be all these different things at the same time. And if the kid don't believe that you will do any of those, be any of those people, they will find a reason not to listen to you, and then they'll tell their parents about it, and then like parents will be like, oh, well, good, don't listen to that coach. He don't know what he's talking about. You know what I mean?
As a coach, you develop relationships both on and off the floor, but more so off the floor. Mm-hmm. The kids need to see you as a human being that you can laugh and joke and have a good time, but when you get on the floor, you're all business. And once your program is established and you understand that, you'll have a pretty good time.
Becky, Jennifer, Tammy, what about being a female coach with female players?
There's outside things you have to deal with. They're dealing with a lot more issues than what I had to deal with as a high school kid, and I have to take those into account. So my coaching has changed a little bit in that way. I feel like I'm sometimes counselor, sometimes teacher, sometimes coach, and that trust, that they trust me enough that I'm going to help them through a situation with any part of their life.
I've never been able to motivate or try to motivate somebody with fear. I try to motivate them with respect, and you build that relationship, and they want to play for you, and they want to win for you, and they want to help you succeed. And so it's much more of a relationship. Just like when we go home, we don't turn our own minds off. When I go home, that phone is ringing, all night long with different issues that have nothing to do about basketball. And sometimes it's difficult, but I wouldn't want it any other way.
When I played baseball in high school, if I made a mental error, I would get chewed out in front of the whole team. They'd make me run a mile. Can you do that with your baseball players these days?
So, yes, there are times where I'm going to get on you. And some kids take it better than others. Some kids, the only discipline they get is at school and at practice. And those are the kids that you may get on, but you need to put your arm around them afterwards, too. Right. I can, off the top of my head, I've got 3 kids who I did not have tremendous relationships. I had good relationships, but not great relationships with, that I have better relationships with now. And they're like, Coach, I get it now. Mm-hmm. And they're all 3 playing college sports. And they say, I get it. I understand why you did this, why you did that. I didn't see it at this time, which is the same thing, you know, with me whenever I was in high school. Sometimes I didn't get it. Sometimes I didn't see it.
Greg, as an administrator, what do you tell your coaches about, you know, coaching these young, impressionable teenagers? Because at the end of the day, they are teenagers that these coaches have from 3 to 6 every night.
You know, I even go back when I coached baseball at Clever, we talk about, is it different? It's different. I drove the bus back from a game at Crane and turned the lights on, and we had baseball practice, and it was not a fun practice. Yeah. When I was at Republic as a basketball coach, we had a bad game at Nixa, and we came back, and I had practice for about 30. I don't know if you call it practice as much as it was getting on them and running and talking. Yeah. If I had a coach do that today, I would say, hey, I think we need to handle that better. That's, you know, you need to do that. You know, you can talk to them the next day. So I always joked and said I would have had to talk to myself. If I was coaching and I was my AD, I'd had to talk to me a little bit. And I think when you're a young coach, you take it so serious and you care and you're so passionate, sometimes you don't see the big picture. And I think that's just like with anybody. I see the big picture. On the flip of it, I am concerned that it's changed so much that I'm a big believer in work ethic, and if you're not working your kids hard and demanding tough work and practice and them being attention to detail and just putting out effort every day, I think we're not doing them. I think you're enabling kids, and I think we're doing them a disservice if we, in essence, baby them or don't work them hard. And I do think there's some pressure where coaches are afraid, if I work them too hard, people will complain or kids will quit.
Okay, here we go. Is the media the problem? Are we the problem? Do we do too much?
I don't think you are, but as he said, before we even get in the locker room, there's things all over social media. I think social media is a huge factor in a lot of things. And I think people, maybe not so much the players, but the parents think that they can put things out there in social media and it's okay.
I don't know, just looking at it because every Friday night we're putting a lot of 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds on pedestals, and rightly so, because they do a wonderful job at the sports. They're representing their communities well, they're representing their schools well, but they're still getting that pedestal. They're getting put up there, and then maybe does that carry over that they deserve something, that they have the right to something, and then if a coach, you know, if they go against something that you want, do they have maybe this feeling of, well, I'm invincible because I'm this good player?
I think if you emphasize that team aspect, then the media will never become a problem. And that, in the way you saying it, because when you're on TV and you've done some good things, you've had a great game, you already know that, hey, you know, I'm putting it out there for the team. My guys did a great job for me. Everybody around me was great. That's why I was able to be great, and that kind of thing.
If you've put in so many hours, so many years doing this, you have, sometimes you have parents, you have school boards, you have students, you have so many factors. You don't get to see family as much as you can. Why do you do it?
I feel like I was called to this profession. I have since I was about 17 years old. That's when I started. And there's nothing I would rather do, and there's probably nothing I'm good at. So, but I feel like this is what I am supposed to do, and I feel like that's why some of the doors have been opened.
We want to see them succeed. If you want to play baseball, I'm going to provide you that opportunity. Try to help you get that opportunity. If you don't, where do you want to go and what do you want to do? And we're going to get you there. If I've got to try to help you or find somebody to help you, that's what we want to do. We want to provide opportunities for kids.
We've talked about some of the most rewarding experiences that I've ever had is getting a letter or getting a text message or getting a phone call from kids I've coached 17, 18 years ago that actually did change or make a difference in their lives.
Hey, you got 2 quarters, championship game. It's a lot of fun. Let's go get it.
That one thing, you forget about all the other stuff, and it keeps you bringing you back day in and day out, and that's why I do it. I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
And when you're representing your school and those kids are out there, I don't think there's anything better than high school athletics.
Coaches, thanks a lot for your time. We do appreciate it here on the Climate of Coaching, and we'll put a wrap on this week's show after the break. And welcome back. Thanks to our high school coaching panel for coming in tonight. Now, are all parents disruptive? No. Are all club coaches undisciplined? Absolutely not. On tonight's show, we discussed the hurdles that can hurt a high school coach from doing their job effectively and to the best of their ability. A common thread in our conversation tonight, communication. As long as communication is happening with open minds on both sides, it seems like the student athletes will benefit most. And that's what they are here for, laying a solid foundation for young men and women. If they don't make it to the pros someday, at least these high school coaches hope they can instill some values and confidence when these students become adults. And finally tonight, it's time for the Simmons Bank O-Zone Pick of the Week. These are the 5 best photos from the week that was placed online for you to vote for. And congratulations goes out to this young man right here. Fairgrove's Ryan Burks hitting the ball, driving it to center field. Thanks to your votes, he will receive a free-framed photo thanks to Simmons Bank and Ozark Sports Zone. A new show comes your way next week at 11:30.